Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. If this is the first time you're joining me, then I'm excited you're here on my channel. If you've been with me from the beginning or somewhere along the journey, I'm very glad you are returning. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters. All chapters or writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you are under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories we've heard. The title of this story is Elloni's Pride, and today we are reading chapter 10 out of book 3. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. Now let's start. Elloni's Pride, Book 3, Gaining Freedom, Chapter 10. King Daemontade's Brother. King Daemontade and his soldiers were distraught at seeing fire rising from the kingdom before them. They landed outside the kingdom walls, and King Daemontade had several soldiers surround him, and they entered the rubble. Mostly dead and injured people lay here and there, and there was no more fighting. King Daemontade saw frightened people hiding in doorways or behind rubble. He thought those were his brother's people and not the people that caused the damage, so he headed on to the castle. As he approached the steps to the castle, he saw a man laying across several steps. King Daemontade pushed out of his circle of soldiers. "Malteron, is that you, my brother?" Malteron slightly raised his head and looked at the man approaching him. In a raspy voice, he said, "Crucifer, my brother, if only you'd been here yesterday. We could have fought my enemies together, and we would have won." He laid his head back down. "Who did this?" asked King Daemontade as he sat down on the steps near his brother's body. "Our enemies," repeated Malteron. "They used to come once or twice a year, but we haven't seen them in 3 years. There were so many of them this time. My soldiers are pursuing them." "Should I get you inside?" asked King Daemontade. "No, get Raskov. He gets upset if injured people move too soon," stated Malteron. "Where is he?" asked King Daemontade. Malteron motioned a little, but then he didn't say anything else. King Daemontade ordered his soldiers to find Raskov. It didn't take too long to find Raskov. He was busy attending to the wounded, and he had several young boys and girls following him around. He would tell them to clean this wound or add pressure to that one, but he alone did the stitching. When the soldiers approached, at first Raskov was nervous because he didn't recognize the armor, but when they told him the king needed care, he handed the needle to a young maid. He told her, "You've watched me enough times. I'll check your work when I return." Then he pointed to a couple of boys and had them follow him to the king. When he saw the king on the steps, he rushed forward. "Oh, my king, why didn't you send for me?" "I figured you would eventually get around to me," stated Malteron. "We can move him to his bed as soon as you give us word," stated King Daemontade. Raskov glanced at the other king and went back to inspecting the wounds of his king. "That's my brother," Malteron said as he briefly motioned. "Too bad he wasn't here sooner," said Raskov. Then he started carefully removing the armor so he could get to the wounds. Malteron groaned in pain as Raskov removed the chest plate because the top part bent into his shoulder, and Raskov had to pull the metal out of the shoulder. Then Malteron screamed out in pain, and King Daemontade didn't like hearing his brother in pain, but he didn't move against Raskov. The blood started gushing out of the wound. Raskov told the boy to run and get a large cloth. The blood was gushing too much. So Raskov removed his own shirt and put it against the wound. He told 2 boys to hold the shirt there while he found and threaded another needle. King Damantade couldn't watch, so he paced back and forth at the bottom of the steps. After Raskol finished, he allowed them to move Malturon to his bed, but Malturon had passed out long before. Raskol was nervous about the other king, but he went back to handling the people. King Damantade trusted Raskol once he saw him use his own shirt to help his brother. He and his soldiers carefully moved his brother to his bed. Then King Damantade didn't know what to do, so he went throughout the kingdom to see the status. Browser's group flew up to the top of the ridge, and their dragons found places to land. Then someone pointed out the smoke in the distance. Browser shook his head, but he didn't say anything. "What if Trenton and I fly farther south?" suggested Carcer. "We will fly invisibly and see what's going on." Browser was shaking his head no, but Commander Stovrock was agreeing, so Carcer and Trenton lifted off once again. They said their invisibility charms and flew south towards the smoke. After things had settled in Drumstump Kingdom, the commander ordered one soldier to fly south to find King Damantade. The soldier was to tell the news of the attack and the damage. The soldier was nervous because he didn't want to die, but the commander told him King Damantade would want the report and would not want to wait. The commander also told him that the enemy flew south, so to be on the lookout for the enemy as well. And as that made sense because the enemy probably saw King Damantade's group fly over them, so they probably thought the kingdom was unprotected. The soldier then said that if he said that, then King Damantade would think he was accusing or blaming him for the attack. Then make sure you state that you didn't see them either, but they disappeared from our sight, and they are hiding. Tell him our enemy is using invisibility, just like Browser did when he escaped. The soldier wasn't sure, but he didn't want to argue, so he left and flew south. Carcer and Trenton flew over the kingdom that lay in destruction. Carcer thought to Trenton, "This is like the other kingdoms that King Damantade has attacked." "It does," thought Trenton. "But from Browser's story, this would be King Damantade's brother. Why would King Damantade attack his brother? Do you think he's stealing dragons from his brother?" Carcer thought that he didn't know. He thought that the brother had given King Damantade dragons to begin with, so King Damantade didn't need to steal dragons. Then they both thought that perhaps the brother had enemies, and that someone or that group might be an ally. Then they both remembered that they hadn't known King Faterite before leaving Underwood Village, but he was an ally. Both reflected that King Faterite and his soldiers had been vital in them surviving the 6 years. King Faterite had helped ensure that things ran smoothly, and he organized their training. Then Carcer thought, "The thing is that I would have never trusted King Faterite if it hadn't been for Bradley, or Sir Bradley." Trenton thought, "I didn't want to trust Browser, but Bradley did. However, I think your point is that any potential ally might not trust us." "Exactly," thought Carcer. They flew a little closer, and they could see King Damantade's dragons, and they could see the people huddling here and there. They didn't know what to make of things. After they flew around the kingdom a couple of times, they flew back north to join their group. Once Carcer and Trenton landed near their group, and they told what they saw and what they thought. Commander Storbrock agreed that there might be potential allies and that at this point they might not trust. Moreover, they couldn't really offer any aid until they settled in a kingdom. Landfort put in that it was very far away from where they currently stayed. Everyone agreed on that point, although no one mentioned their mountains because of high Snowden. They decided to just stay put until they saw King Damantade returning home or toward his home. It was getting close to dusk when Malturon's soldiers started returning. They had a few prisoners, but not the number that caused the damage to the kingdom. The presence of the other soldiers instantly alarmed them when they landed. King Damantade approached a lead soldier and said, "I see prisoners, so I assume there's a good report." The commander didn't know what to say because he didn't know the man's authority, although the man seemed to be the king. King Damantade saw the commander's hesitation. Raskov stitched my brother back together, and my brother is resting at the moment. Ah, said the commander, as he slightly bowed. I didn't realize King Damantade expected a visit from his brother, and it looks like you are a king as well. Welcome to Strawfort Kingdom. Is good. Raskov saw to the king's care. What should we do with the prisoners? Have you questioned them? Asked King Damantade. Yes, but you are welcome to question them again, stated the commander. Bring them one at a time to the royal chamber. I will question them there. Then you can put them in your dungeons, replied King Damantade. The commander carried out the orders. King Damantade looked around at all the destruction and shook his head to himself. It looked like they only had 15 to 20 prisoners, but it would have taken a lot more to cause the amount of damage. He headed into the castle. As he walked, he wondered if these prisoners were actually the ones involved in the attack at all. Surely the people involved were dragons, and so there should be some dragons captured as well. King Damantade would question the commanders later. It was getting close to dusk when King Damantade's one soldier arrived in Kalmesh Kingdom. The soldier was nervous since he was alone, but he found the caves and slept inside. His dragon slept at the entrance to the cave. The soldier would continue south tomorrow. It was getting late after King Damantade questioned all the prisoners and the commander, so he stopped by his brother's room before he headed to his old room and bed. Malteron was awake. He was still in pain, but he felt okay enough for King Damantade to give him an update. After King Damantade told him the reports, he told his thoughts about the people in prison not being responsible for the attack. Malteron agreed, but replied that someone had to pay. King Damantade didn't dispute that, but asked for any of his plans. Malteron told what he usually did, which was to wait for those responsible to try to rescue the prisoners, and then capture and kill them. Afterward, they would release the prisoners. Sometimes they killed a few prisoners before their enemies returned to rescue. Then Malteron asked why Crucifer was so far south, and King Damantade told his tale of the Linker's dragons hatching and his soldiers not being able to find the dragons, and Browser, the last Linker, escaping. Then he told of how he recently realized that he was missing dragons, and he had no witch to make the potions. Malteron had some thoughts on that. Namely, he had a witch to send who could make potions, so long as the previous witch left notes, but that witch couldn't stay. She could train someone, but then she needed to return to make potions for his dragons. King Damantade didn't realize that his brother was having issues with his own dragons, but he didn't say anything. He just walked down the hall to go to bed. One thing stuck in his mind. They used to attack once or twice a year, but we haven't seen them in 3 years. How did his brother know it was the same people? His soldiers hadn't seen any of King Faterite's soldiers or people. They had not seen any of his own villagers. Maybe they escaped, came south. Maybe they were still near their kingdoms and waiting for their opportunity to attack. King Damantade stopped short. He just lost 5 soldiers because his soldiers went to Dripston Kingdom, or some of his soldiers went there. They indeed were waiting, and then more of his soldiers joined him so he wouldn't be vulnerable. He decided that he needed to get back. So tomorrow morning he would head out, especially since his brother seemed to be recovering. He would leave as soon as possible. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 10. Leave a comment on if you would head back to your kingdom with those thoughts, or if you would stay and help your brother until your brother was able to get up and move around. Leave a comment on Trenton's and Kasha's thoughts. Do you think there might be some allies here in this kingdom for them, or is it too far away to even consider? Join me Tuesday for vocabulary. Join me Friday for chapter 11 of Elloni's Pride, Gaining Freedom. Visit my website, bymckella.com, and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave comments on your favorite ones. Which ones you've read, which ones are your favorites. Go read a blog post on my coach's blog, authorkristenlamb.com. Leave a comment on a blog you read and how you think the post will help you with your writing. All your comments will help us start conversations and build our community. Keep all comments respectful, and remember that someone else's perspective will help you with your writing. You don't have to agree with it, but you can be respectful, and then you can incorporate that into your writing. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so we can continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with me. Share it with them. This is Michaela with Write with Michaela. Bye for now.